Hey, it's Tom Cassidy, Reasonable Coaching. I'm here with the legend in the special ops field, Mr. Bryan Tom. This guy is famous for flying in like this paratrooper elite to actually go in, tell nobody, complete an entire personal development course in a day and fly out again. I mean, what a legend. We're talking about his Mojo course that he did with Sam Brown. First of all, Bryan, massive congratulations for doing that. There's nothing that gives me greater pleasure than people who've just taken massive action. And it's a bit like overhearing someone say something good about you to somebody else when you kind of discover that people have been just doing brilliant things, partly as a result of things that you've inspired them with. So thanks for that. You gave me a very, very great belated birthday present. So well done for that.
Well, I thank you. Sam and I both, count you as a mentor and sort of the sage counsel of kind of mentoring us all in that sense of inspiration. And I get the inspiration, and I know Sam counts the same from many other members in the group and seeing the chat.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's what this whole idea of just doing something before you're ready, because I told Sam, and he feels the same, that even if no one purchased the course, it's a win-win for us. Because, the script was quite heavy with what we could not do, what wouldn't work, and we just pressed anyway, and was just able to come up with that in 10 days. And it was a lot of late nights and
Yeah.
really pressing hard and all the difficulties that come when you're between your point A and point B.
Yep.
So that whole idea of navigating, the unknown variables and the uncertainties and the not knowing. And one of the things I remember asking you a while back about how you structured the course, and I remember you distinctly saying, I really didn't understand. I didn't know. I just put it out there.
Yeah.
And that was like in the back of my mind as we were going through this, because the idea of like, okay, we need to read these instructions, we need to know this, we need to know this, we need to know this. None of that was necessary. We learned by doing, and we
Yeah.
discovered a lot of things. Even when we pushed published on the course, it was kind of like, okay, we didn't know we needed to do this, so we had to go
Yeah.
back. And it's always a work in progress. And I think that's the idea, is that you'll always be that work in progress. You don't have to be perfect. You just need to have a true intention.
You're right, and I think online courses and apps and things like that are a much better reflection of the sort of the verb-like nature of humans than a book, which is very much, oh, we published this book and it was, it was set in time, and like we're not like that. We change every single moment of every single day, and I like the idea of you do a course and you publish it before you're ready, and you iterate and you improve it as you go along, so you'll get great ideas. So whoa, I wonder if we could do this. And so, oh, this, and then you'll get some ideas which are so great. So you know what, that needs to be a course in itself. That would this course would get too bloated if it had all that stuff, and then you might redo the videos every so often. But it's I love the idea of having the technology that mimics reality, mimics
Yeah.
life much more than say the staticness of a book.
Right, right. And that is the entrepreneur's journey. You don't know everything. It's almost like saying that there's one business plan for everyone. It just isn't. And so the entrepreneur's journey is really one that is navigating these unknown variables and uncertainties. You do it through an authentic space of occupying who you are from the inside out, and just respond accordingly. So there's no perfection needed, no assembly required. You just show up. You
Yeah,
just show up. Yeah.
one thing that you mentioned there, and I thought that I wanted to bring this out today because the non-hierarchical nature of this whole movement, entity, self-organization, whatever you want to call it. My way of explaining it, it's not just one person sitting in the middle and then telling everyone all these neat things and giving them pearls of wisdom or ideas or whatever. It's much more like a bunch of people in a circle all massaging each other. you know, all rubbing each other's shoulders, because then everyone gets their own shoulders rubbed, and everyone is also at the same time rubbing someone else's shoulders. So I see it as this kind of circle of mutual benefit, which is, you know, circle. It's kind of regenerative. Everyone gets a massage at the same time as gives a massage. And for me, that whole idea is every time I tell someone something, I learn from doing it, and also I learn when they tell me stuff. So it's just a true, you know, whenever I talk to Sam, I learn something. He learns something as well. Whenever I talk to you, I learn something. And obviously, you see me as a mentor, which is great, or being able to sort of help with those sorts of things. And I have a mentor as well. But there is this, you know, Richard Wilkins, who you know of probably through the certainly through what I say, but also he was the original architect of some of these concepts. And I get so much out of these conversations, you know, and these coaching sessions, and really, you know what, they're exploring sessions, aren't they? We should probably call it reasonable exploring.
Yes, yes. I call it a circle of influence. And if you think
Yeah.
about the word influence itself, it means to flow in and
Yeah.
flow through. So
Yeah.
the ideal of interacting with others, you know, and allowing the bigger vision, if you will, to flow in and through you, so that when you interact with others, they get the benefit of that as well. And I've always operated in those kinds of groups, because one of the chief cornerstones of building a business in general is the terminology they use in corporate America is called modeling. So you
Yeah.
find a model. You don't necessarily try to duplicate the model, but you can learn from the model. You can learn from what's already out there, what's working. It's great
Uh-huh.
research, it's great data for the start, and it
Mm.
gives inspiration for the start. And that's essentially what we're building in this group here. This World Domination Summit that I'm attending
Yeah.
this week,
Interesting. Yeah.
this is the same thing. You know, it
Yeah.
started out with they wanted to create the largest yoga chain for the record books. I think they needed
Huh.
697 people to all show up, you know, downtown in the square and bring your mats. And it was going to create this one large, massive pose. I don't even know if they reached it. But you find that in the registration is like from 2 to 5. So people are registering, but then what tends to happen is that someone starts a conversation, and then it becomes like several meetups all around the center. And every session ended up with meetups all
Oh, we lost Brian a little bit there. Um,
I
you're
can
back,
you hear
Brian.
me?
We lost you a second. Yeah, it was like, and you end up with all these meetups.
Yeah, well, there are several meetups, and after each session, it tends to kind of navigate where people want more information, more data, and so they just talk about all of their influences and things
Mm.
that they're doing and how they're putting it out, and it becomes like kind of like a hot seat for everyone to really just be able to talk through what they want their particular impact to be. It's very interesting how this happens. I started a session with it was a Revolution U. In fact, the title of the session was "How to Tap Revolution Dynamics to Fuel Business Growth, Build an Army of Customer Evangelists, and Change the Damn World." That's a pretty
Yeah,
powerful
sounds
title.
good. Yeah, yeah.
So, so after that session, invited 7 people back to the place that I'm renting, and then the 7 people called other people. Next thing you know, we had 25 people all talking about how to start revolutions based on the particular area of interest. Very exciting stuff. And we found the whole conference was just organized to take advantage of people of influence coming together who truly want to make an impact in the world.
Lovely. That's. I mean, not only is that amazing and great fun and really exciting, but it sounds like very much to me like these are people that are action takers. So there's going to be a tremendous amount. And these are good people to know.
Exactly.
Yeah, this is what you want.
Exactly.
You want to. So no doubt when you told them about your special ops mission, they were going, what? Or whatever, if that ever came up. Well, but you're probably too modest to talk about stuff like that.
Exactly. I told them about the Greater Life for All, told them about Valuepreneur Project, told them about the human potential, just different things that are lined up that I want to do, the holdings company, to pool conscious investors and entrepreneurs that will invest strategically in products, projects, and services that advance humanity. And they said, you take something like Greater Life for All, and everyone was giving their input. They said, you definitely need to design a site around, unique services that you can offer, and you can have meetups and conferences. Yeah. So all the things that we had already envisioned, everyone was saying, hey, look at this. You guys need to do a summit. Why don't you do a summit? Do a summit and invite various people to the summit, do an online summit. The online summit could turn into various meetups. Exactly. From, the architects can organize meetups in their particular locale. So they had the whole thing mapped out by the time I was done there.
And actually, that is, I mean, when we first spoke a few months ago, that's kind of exactly what we were, our first conversation was about community, and building organizations that are non-hierarchical, that are permanent, and that things that are going to last longer than the pyramids. I mean, exactly. That's kind of one of my. It's just like, okay, when I'm. Not only how is it bringing greater life for all, but how is this going to last longer than the pyramids? If you're building upon something which it uses the technology, is absolutely fine. But if it's defined by the technology, then it's obviously going to not last as long as the pyramids. So it's like, okay, well, that's fine for some people, but for me, no. I want to do something that is around in, at least another 10,000 years, at least.
Exactly. And that's kind of my vision now, is to build something that will go out at least 50 years.
Yeah. That's no one else talks at timescales like these. I mean, obviously we do, but whenever you talk to people, I'm chatting to people, and they say, "What are you looking to do?" And I say, "Well, we're sort of working on the timescale of 50 to 100 years," and they sort of look at you like you're what? But you might not even be alive. Exactly. That's how you've got to do it. If it doesn't depend on you being around to see the benefits of it, and you still want to do it, then it's worth doing.
Yeah.
Your ego is not. Yeah, exactly. But if you want to be around to see it, the fulfillment, there's nothing wrong with wanting that. But if that's like a big driver, then really you might be tempted to short circuit nature's gestation period just because you want things to happen more speedily than it's ready, and by doing that you'll probably end up sowing the seeds of its demise.
Exactly.
And, only because of your ego being attached to the fact that you want to sort of be the man or the guy. So, well, actually, if you first start off with doing something that you don't even, not only do you not care whether anybody knows you were part of it or did it, you don't even have to be around when it actually is done. Well, actually, whoa, that's okay, of course we will be around when many brilliant things get done, but it's a bit like on the reasonable eating program I call it the celery test. You ask yourself, if you're not sure whether you're hungry or whether you're just got an appetite, I say this is the algorithm. You ask yourself, am I hungry enough? An interesting noise in that background. Is that you, or is that me? Can you hear a noise in the background?
Yeah, some drilling happening next door here.
Okay. Right. It sounded like somebody trying to start a lawnmower or something in one of your cupboards. That's interesting. Okay, so now the question is, am I hungry enough to eat a stick of celery? Now, if you are hungry enough, to eat a stick of celery, well, you don't have to eat celery. You can eat anything. So this is the thing, you know. But if you're not hungry enough to eat a stick of celery, well, then you're probably not really hungry. It's probably appetite. So this is the thing. It's okay to be around and to receive the adulation. It's all those things. It's absolutely fine. But if you're not going to do it, if it's something that will take too long for you to really receive the benefit of it, then probably you're doing it for the wrong reasons.
And that's the question that people really need to ask themselves. How does this impact my children's 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 children? You know, I call it heart-centered economics, because if you think about it, with predictive medical technology, it's not going to be uncommon to find a centenarian any longer. So we really need to sit down and think about 50 to 100 years out and truly prepare people for that kind of thinking. And that kind of thinking is uniquely different than the conditioning that prevails today. Because most people, even today in businesses, that people are still doing 3 to 5 year business plan.
Yeah.
And they don't see beyond that.
And most of the time, even a 3 to 5 year actual forecast is meaningless anyway, because it's changing so quickly. So it's almost like you're going to spend a lot of time doing something, and you'd probably be better off saying, what is the overall vision that you want to work towards, and what can we do in the next 6 to 12 months to move closer towards that vision.
Right, exactly. Because the body, you think about it, the collective body of knowledge, it tends to double right now is every year and a half. At one point in time, the last time I read some of the stats, the body knowledge doubled between 1775 and 1900, so it's 125 years. And then it went from 1900 to 1950, so then it went to 50 years that it doubled. And then 1950 to 1958, so it's down to 8 years. And so now it's every year and a half. And it's growing is really rapidly, so it's not uncommon to think creative playing in this way. That's one of the things that we're going to be addressing with the Reasonable Course in Corporate America, is really building out the creative plane economics, because the nature of business is changing so fast, but yet we're expecting these fixed ideologies and people to come with these fixed kind of paradigms about work, and they don't know how to think creatively. They don't know how to create work experiences that integrates both life, meaning, and their authentic self. And so all of this is quite new, and some organizations get it and others don't. But that's kind of the next move, I think, is to help bring in that type of dialogue.
Yeah. And in and amongst the drilling, what would you what particularly is going to be, you've got so many things that you're working on and so many projects, so many things that you can do with your time. In terms of you, what's going to bring the most greater life for all, or the most life for all in the shortest possible time, but also has the most fun for you, that will create, the heart-centered economics will create the biggest longitudinal impact. Okay, could ask that question another way. What are you most up for right at the moment?
What I'm most up for is getting in front of as many people as possible, because I have the basics, if you will, of the platform from the work that I currently do.
Yeah.
The challenge is and right now there's a unique opportunity to really offer different kind of metrics. Right now in my space they talk about ROI, return on investment, and my question is always about, what about return on value? What about return on time? What about return on meaning? So these other kinds of metrics, and people are thrown off by it because they're conditioned. So I think getting in front of as many people as possible, ushering in this idea of the human condition that's missing from business, the condition of the heart, condition of the mind. That's kind of my passion, if you will. It's my gifting, and that's what I like most to do. I love the teaching, the speaking, the coaching, the consulting aspect. I have to step out of the capacity of the investment manager role because it doesn't offer that. And
Yeah.
so, in other words, I have to create a whole new, different brand. And that's what the Human Potentials LTD is all about. It's about taking what I know to do best, working with the science of human judgment, the science of decision making, and really helping people with their thinking that will bring the greatest net value for them. Because
Mm.
if I can do that, challenge this thinking that is out there, that's the cornerstone of getting behaviors to change. They have to be able to see their own potentials, and that goes with the whole paradigm. You don't just give someone a fish, but if you can teach them the dynamics, then they can do it on their own. And that's kind of
Yes.
what I'm targeting.
And so this turns into a value proposition for a company in what particular way? Because I can certainly see some, but what would you say? So I'm a CEO of a company. I say, Brian, I love all this shit. I love what you're talking about. This is great. You know, I could talk all night. We could smoke cigars and everything. But what are my shareholders going to say when I tell them I've just given you a $30,000 consulting contract for a 15-day program or whatever, what am I going to tell them is going to be the benefit to the company of having given you your time and influence over my people?
That's a great question. I can speak quantitatively, I can speak qualitatively about that, and that's what the metrics are for. Because right now, the metrics of the economic metrics rewards basically shareholder value. Has nothing to do necessarily with the human potential of people
Yeah.
themselves, but yet they are the ones who bring the assets. I always tell people, number one, businesses do not fail or succeed, people do.
Yeah, of course.
And so if you're not understanding the true potential of your people and actualizing that, you are at jeopardy of your company long term and both short term. So that's the true net value always deals with the aggregate. Right now, there's 1 out of 3 people secretly looking for another job. 1 out of 3 are going to the physician for stress related
Yeah.
medication. I
Yeah.
can put I can put figures and cost on that. In fact, this is it says employees who are valued as a human first, and then second as a coworker or producer.
Hmm.
Those organizations increase their value by 40%, and that's been researched for over 15 or 20 years now.
Hmm.
By 40% productivity. What company would not want 40% more productivity?
Yeah. I
So
mean,
we can put numbers on this
yeah.
here, and this is the economics that you must speak to in the business arena.
Yeah, of course you got to play by the rules that they understand. There's no point me going to. I told you the story about trying to feed birds, haven't I? In the winter in Central Park.
Yes,
I think you know that one. Yeah, I mean, there's no point rushing in with what they don't understand, and so obviously you've got to talk to companies in terms of you've got to make it easy for them to tell other people and tell the story that makes them look good and not stupid.
right, right,
That's the
right.
hardest thing I think for people to be able to talk to other people about stuff. And if you can give them a preloaded story with some stats and some theory and some science behind it, you're just making it easy for them to buy into it because they immediately know they're not going to look stupid when they're talking at the shareholders meeting. They're not going to look stupid when they're at the wine and cheese evening because they can actually give a really nice parable or story or analogy, and I think that's the key.
Exactly.
And you know this. If you want
Yeah.
to have influence, you've got to have the ability to get people to talk about it. It's got to be remarkable. They've got to be able to pass it on. So okay, so here's a question for you. Then, what specifically would be the infrastructure through which you would deliver a change in I can understand the different metrics, but how would you deliver the system which would then actually change the change the behaviors that you would then measure the results of?
It would have to be multi-channel because
Yeah.
you're dealing with organizations that all are unique and they all have different business models by which they disseminate information and by which that the operational flow. So it would have to be multi-channel. I see a significant impact that 13 by 4 could have because of its structure of marginal gains and the minimum will implementation. Right now, there's a big push in academia. There's a big push for corporate training to be online to really get training ongoing and consistent in
Yes.
remote areas. And we see that when you see that kind of trend, and you see the trend of PC sales are way down. So we see everyone moving towards
Yeah.
smartphone and everyone moving
Yeah.
towards the tablets, and the cell phone penetration in Africa is going to increase by 20% over the next 10, 15 years or so. So at some point in time, it's going to be 70%. You have 3 billion people are going to be joining online. So it has to be multi-channel. And that's where I see the 13
Mm.
by 4 app could certainly help in that
Yeah.
way. Take, for instance, Career Mojo, what Sam and I are working on right now.
Yeah.
I told
Lovely idea.
Sam we can design the Udemy course, but it's going to be specifically targeting the organizations, specifically targeting professionals who are fed up with their organizations, and they will take their own empowerment and their own career momentum in their
Oh
own
yeah.
hands.
Yeah.
Because then
So
you can offer the
yeah.
app
Yeah. Go on.
all working as a channel, like a link together,
Yes.
and form even mastermind groups. I looked at a site. In fact, I actually just joined this site. One of the members were just here and asked me if I would be a mentor. The guy Maynard Webb wrote a book called Rebooting Your Career. He's a tech entrepreneur. He's on the board of like
Good.
Salesforce, Yahoo. He started a
Good.
company called Everwise. If you go to geteverwise.com, and it's all about
Yeah.
using, he called it the science of reinventing the workforce. And what they do is they partner with organizations. They select people like myself as mentors, and then you mentor the different partner organizations who sign up with them. It's a very simple, unique
Uh-huh.
model. And you offer them content, you offer them live events, you offer them all different kinds of things. But it's a very unique, it's automated system. Once I signed up, I received a call from a person who did a like an interview of me, asked me, who do I want to mentor, what are my specialties. You go through this whole qualification process, and then they match you up with someone to mentor.
Huh.
So I
Interesting.
can see us doing something like this for Career Mojo, have Career Mojo Mastermind, where it's the same kind of format that we have now. We have the community, like a
Yes.
Google Plus community. You're feeding them
Yeah.
content. You have the app. So I'm seeing more and more of these kinds of sites popping up. There's another one, the author who wrote Purpose Driven Economy. He goes into the
Yes.
workforce and they teach employees about purpose and how to design work with purpose. We're trying to teach people the creative expression of
Mm.
bringing work. In fact, here's our I just sent it to Sam earlier today. Our mission is to bring the best of human endeavor to work and the world. We believe each individual organization has a unique contribution in bringing greater life to all. Our work is to mentor this uniqueness in its best form. We work with the whole person and the whole organization. That's our
Mm.
mission.
That's interesting. Well, if you want to use any of my content for that, I've already done a 13 by 4 called Ultimate Career Success, which is kind of a much deeper one than any of the ones that I've got on Udemy. It's like a 100,000 word book, and it's got everything in from, how to influence people to how to use LinkedIn effectively. It's got the esoteric and the practical. So there's a lot of great stuff in there. I can send that all to you guys if you want any ideas.
Sure.
I mean, not that you need ideas. You guys have. This is the thing. You've got more ideas than you've got time already.
I know, that's the thing. That's why I said it has to be, and that's one of the things that why the second phase, I said, it has to be strategic, primary focus, because the idea of time, I call it T, time, energy, and awareness, and your attention rather, are the most important things when it comes to developing an authentic body of work. Because if you don't put focused time in it, you're going to be scattered. The work is going to be spotty. It's not going to be a full representation of your authentic self. So managing energy and attention and what you put attention to, that's part of the investment. That's the real return, is what you're investing in. And the whole idea of unfolding, authentic work and true power, you have to be able to invest in what matters most, and that's why I said this whole idea of rebranding for me is quite important.
Yeah, I mean that's quite cool. What I say, energy, time, and money are the three things you need to get anything to go well. So you can't escape. You can have a lot of money and maybe not need to put as much time or as much energy, or you can have a lot of energy and not need to put as much time, as much money. But basically that kind of, the circle has to be complete from those components. And I guess really, I've assumed energy includes sort of the attention, but I like it actually what you've done there. You've got time, energy, and attention. Focus, isn't it? Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
But T, I love the word play you do, and the mnemonics and all that sort of stuff. I realized a long time ago, I picked it up from Edward de Bono. If you want to create something permanent, you've got to give it a name. You can't just call it, well, this is sort of what you do. This is kind of, well, you think about how much energy you're putting in, and you have, the time, and then your attention. No, give it a bloody name. Let people sort of see something, turn an abstract concept into something concrete by naming it. And that's what I like about what you do, Bryan. It's very
yeah, and it offers your
So,
own unique language, and you become sort of a sage counsel, if you will, for creating this unique space, because no one is really talking about it. So I've always been faced with that kind of thing in the industry. No one knew what to do with me, a guy with a neuroscience background in investment management. It's like, we don't see it's a strange marriage. We don't get it. So I'm kind of used to that.
now they know.
Exactly. Now they know what I am after.
Yeah. So, for you, how can we help more than we are? I mean, how can I help specifically? How can people with vision tend to attract lots of people to them. How can the army of people that is not really organized, it's self-organizing, how can it sort of be self-organized into something that will make it easier for us to do all our specific things, and you in particular to get in front of as many people as possible and talk about this cool stuff?
I think we just need to continue what we're doing. What I see can happen really is to get a lot of as many reasonable programs out there as possible, and I say that because what it offers is social proof.
Yeah.
And it builds the army, it builds the evangelists, before everything is ready. And so that's a part of the vision right now, is to create as many reasonable programs, get the app out there, so that people can demonstrate it and see. For the trip to Florida, the career source is the state's, I guess it's like where the unemployment compensation is handled for people who are looking for work. They have the veteran services. They have welfare to work. So I contacted one that I spoke at many, many years ago and told them about the app, and they have a summit coming up with 600 to 1,000 of these career professionals who are charged with placing
Lovely.
people in work.
Lovely.
And she says, well, why don't you come and speak? What will you speak about? So I said, career mojo for life. But the vision is to create almost like a TED talk, but just talk about solutions for
Yeah.
10 minutes
Yeah.
about what Career Mojo is about, and this idea of really building people to create unique work experiences that exemplify their full potential, and then offer them the app.
Yes.
Literally
Yeah.
offer them the app right then and there. And I spoke to them about this idea of the new economy, about mentoring, coaching, conscious architects who you can help them realize their full potential and why that's important. So I gave them this whole description, and so I speak at that the October 30th. The thing is, if it goes well with one of those centers, it could now be all over the state of Florida. And if it goes well with the
Yeah. So
state of
it's like
Florida, the
yeah,
other
yeah,
states will see that as an example because they all receive their monies from the federal government. So other states will now see this and say, hey, what's this guy that did this presentation and you guys had these programs? So there's some potential there. So that's what I see will create this social proof for all that we're doing. And people will see that Greater Life for All is not just a name or a
yeah.
concept. It is a way of transacting business. It's a way of influence. It's a way of actually recreating and creating communities, authentic communities that are regenerative,
Yeah,
and
it's a
they
code
replace
of practice,
themselves.
isn't it? Yeah, it's like it doesn't really exist as any physical. It's not going to have an office, any of those things, but it's just it doesn't even need to be stamped on an organization like an ISO number or any of that stuff. But you will know what it is about because of the types of way these companies are doing business, and they'll be talking about it all the time. I just think it's a great question. Okay, how does this bring greater life to all? You know, it's just such a
Exactly.
good question for any business. Okay, I see that you're making money. How are you bringing greater life for all? In Buckminster's Fuller's word, how are you moving us towards a state where we as a world live on our energy income and not on our energy savings account? And
Right.
people,
And I've been asking investors that. I says, how does your process is? Because, they have to bring in management teams. They have to hire people to
yeah,
run their organizations. And when I'm qualifying and quantifying as to how they're choosing, why you choose particular groups of people, they can't go outside the boundaries of, well, I think these people will bring me good return on investment. So I said, okay, but how do the
yeah,
processes bring greater life for all? How does the
yeah.
systems bring greater life for all? And I'm asking all of these questions and no one can really answer them. But then when I explain
How,
to them,
go on.
I explain to them the difference between competitive playing and creative, because all they were trying to do is what I call one-upmanship. They're trying to
Yeah,
one up the next company, one up the competitor. And when you do that, I tell them you're playing someone else's game and not your own. The creative
hmm,
playing is all about playing your own game. And a professional athlete doesn't desire to play the game like everyone else, but they're under the auspices of the same rules. But the professional athletes who do well play their own game. They know their
yeah.
game well, and that's why they can
And
optimize.
they change the game. Yeah, they change the game by
Exactly.
playing it. Like, yeah, absolutely. So
Exactly.
here's a question: do they understand the concept of? It's almost like the camping rule, which is something that Cindy's dad talks about all the time. When you're ever using like a campsite and you're using the wash facilities, you should leave it tidier than it was when you went in. If
Yeah.
everybody left it or sought out to leave it tidier than it was when they encountered it, basically it's a tiny bit of extra work from everybody, but it's just in the right direction, in the direction of regeneration rather than degeneration. So the idea, they must get the idea of regenerative business, or creating a business which is in a tiny way, setting the world up to be a little bit more awesome than it currently is, rather than a little bit less full of resources or whatever. Do they get that? Regenerative? Not really.
They do get it, but here's the thing, and this is why I said to get as many reasonable programs out there and many disciplines and many industries as possible will provide a social proof. You have to remember when we're dealing with professionals, they're coming from their own unique perspective by which they've been operating in for the long time. So in other words, their story is tainted by their profession. So it's like me going to a foreign country and not being able to speak that language. They know I'm talking, but some of the words may have different connotations, and so it doesn't resonate with them just yet. So the more we infiltrate the various industries and disciplines, the more they can now see. And that was the original idea of Greater Life for All, was to be this pool of industries, this pool of companies that are all coming together, and they're understanding the very foundational piece of the human condition. They understand the very foundational piece of being creative. They understand the very foundational piece of doing things that really have impact for all, not just for some. And you do that from the perspective of you honoring people, you're not hurting the planet, and then you profit.
Yeah.
So they get that, but you have to be able to speak it in their language so that they can now say, okay, wow, this is germane to precisely what we're doing.
Yeah.
Now you come in, because I notice I have to shift how I frame the question. I have to shift some of the questions that I ask them and put it in terms. That's why I say heart-centered economics. They understand economics, but by me injecting the heart center there, it's kind of like, oh, okay, how do you qualify heart-centered economics?
Yeah.
You know, how do you quantify that? But they understand economics.
Yeah. So what they're really saying is that, listen, Bryan, keep talking, but the last line of your story has to be, and this is how you can make more money.
Yeah, and that's I explain to them, like when we're talking about regenerative value, and I say regenerative capitalism. So I say if you're going to honor regenerative capitalism, you have to look at all forms of capital: intellectual capital, human capital, social capital, and we go down a list of all the capital, and we break the capital down just like any other currency. And I said, do you know currency? If you look at the economic textbooks, currency, you know, was used historically in three ways: as an abstract standard of value, as a storehouse of wealth, and as a medium of exchange. So when people are going into the marketplace, for instance, they're utilizing those three. They're trading their talent, their innate talent, and their experience as a medium of exchange. Their salary is the so-called abstract standard of value, which is why it's limited. And then they're using that, if they do it wisely, as a storehouse of wealth. So this idea of Career Mojo shifts that and say, okay, your abstract standard of value is not limited to how much you earn, because if you give an impression of increase, you can always earn more. If you understand the dynamics of how to.
Yes.
Even more work that's authentic, and now you're creating this storehouse of wealth for yourself. So in other words, it increases this whole idea of this abstract standard to value. So when you talk things like that, then they say, oh, okay, now I get it. So we're operating under one currency. We really need to look at currency as from a systems thinking perspective, and it includes all forms of capital.
Yes. A bit Buckminster Fuller on a systems level thinking. Cool.
Yeah.
That guy's amazing. Anytime I want to reaffirm that I'm doing the right thing, because we all have wives or people in our lives that think, you know what, why don't you just make much more money than you are doing now by just doing things a little bit differently, by, you know, working, competing with people who, you know, you can get up on stage in front of anyone, anywhere in the world, Tom, and be amazing. Why don't you just do more of that? Because that won't bring more life to all in the shortest possible term, the way I'm doing it. But What I love is anytime not doubt, but we go into our scripts, all of us do, and I sort of just read something that Buckminster Fuller's written, and I think, yeah, this is it. This is what I want to be doing. In 50 years' time, in 100 years' time, when I look back, I want to be thinking, yes, this was such a good laugh. What I did was such a good laugh, and it made such a difference. And I don't want to be thinking of all the 300 cars that I've owned.
Yeah, yeah. In fact, that's what I'm reading right now is his Synergetics, the
Oh, it's
explorations
incredible.
in the geometry of thinking. I love that. I always go to that as my go-to
Yeah,
when I'm creating something for businesses, because
yeah.
it's the whole idea of what systems thinking is about, and I can really pinpoint and help organizations look at how one aspect of the business is certainly impacting the other, and then tie that into what's missing, which is, I believe, the human condition.
And I think the sensible way to approach it is, look, how much more of a profit are you going to make on your bottom line if you're giving much more value? How much more value will you be able to give if you're really treating humans in such a way that they can use their metaphysical powers in the direction that you want them to, rather than misaligned with your direction because they don't give a monkeys about you anymore, because they're trying to get another job, or because they're injured, or because of stress and all that sort of stuff. The human metaphysical potential is just insane. If you had the ability, like, right, everybody, one day a month, all you want to do, all we want from you is to think of better ways you could do your work, or anything that you notice from that our company does could be done better. One day a month. Think how long it would take before a company just shot through the roof doing that.
Exactly, exactly. You talk about return on investment.
Yeah.
That's there's an organization that I use their research all the time. They're called the Great Place to Work Institute,
Oh yeah.
and they use the best companies to work for every year.
Yeah.
They come out with that, but they do a lot of research in the area of the exactly what you were talking about, and the return on value
Mm.
for corporations. Very interesting dynamics that they look at, and they've been doing this for now, I think, 35 or 40 years. So they have their system down as far as what they're looking
Mm.
for
Mm.
in organizations, and how they quantify and qualify, the dynamics of their research is very, very interesting. But they're the ones who said that when people are valued intrinsically first as people, and then extrinsically second as a worker producers, they unleash an average of 40% more cooperation and productivity.
Yeah.
So you're talking about the potential there from that. It's very,
Well,
very interesting.
well, I think time scale is the one that we need to always keep people focusing on, because, okay, your company's doing well, your company's doing really well. When it lasts as long as a city, then come and see me. How
Yeah,
many
yeah,
how many
yeah.
companies have lasted as long as London, for example?
Yeah,
What is it about a city that enables it to survive and keep going? And what is it? It's just a collection of humans that are all deciding to be part of this entity, volunteering to be part of this entity. They're diverse, they are contributing, they're giving, they're kind of loving, they're hating, they're doing all these things. But it's that total non-hierarchical organization of people into that body. Why do cities last so long? They last longer than, well, think of the oldest the company in existence that's been around for the longest time. Is it 100 years, 200 years maybe?
right, yeah, about 200 years exactly.
So
And
so
and
you know
yeah,
that's
and
a
you're,
better
you're
test.
spot you're spot on with that, because the organization fundamentally is just a collective of people. That's why
Yeah.
I say organizations don't themselves don't fail or succeed. It's the people, and that's what I try to get investors and entrepreneurs to understand, because the choices and actions of every person who has a stake in the organization is driven by their perceptions of value. And so if you don't understand that, then you're creating these systems, and you're creating policies, procedures, and these things are just not they're not going to be able to stand the test of time, and you're going to always go back to them instead of looking at how to do best by your people. And so they're changing the wrong dynamics, if you will, and they're not looking at it from a holistic perspective. And I've seen this for the last 15 years all the time. I can literally tell which businesses are going to, I can guesstimate, I should say, which businesses are not going to last just based on the dynamics, how they set the organization up.
Yeah, I can tell as well. In one word, it's like their length of likely survival is inversely proportional to the number of policies they have.
Exactly.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Anytime you have to legislate for something and to sort of set up HR and do all that sort of stuff, you're basically screwed. You are trying to keep alive a dinosaur which has already long become extinct, really.
Exactly. And that language in and of itself, HR, human resources. Humans are not resources. Humans are sources.
Sources, yeah. We are the most valuable thing. And not just that, most of the time we're being used because we are good physically at following rules and following systems. We're not being used. Most humans are not being used as the source of, through their metaphysical powers, as the source of genius. Now, if you just started to get any group of organization or gave them the license to access their genius on a regular basis, your company would just be insanely productive and excited, and I get really excited at the potential there. But if you just said, okay, how much you want, you're going to have some legislation probably, but think like a city. How many policies are in place for how people should actually operate and live? No, people kind of work it out. Right?
Yeah.
There's the basic minimum things. There's a little bit of, you pay a certain amount of money and your trash gets taken away. But kind of most people of the 15 million people in Greater London kind of work out how to live, without having to read a handbook and without having to go and complain to anybody and go and see their line manager and all this sort of stuff. So I think we could learn a lot from the way humans naturally organize themselves in very large numbers.
Yes, exactly. And that's why I said we have a huge opportunity right now, because there is this big push for businesses to understand this more. In fact, Udemy itself is now getting into the corporate training, personal development for corporations. So there's a unique opportunity there to really expand that, and that's why I say I think the vision of getting reasonable programs in as many disciplines as possible provide that social proof so people can see how dynamic it is for themselves.
So I've got an idea. This is a really simple one. I only had this idea today, and I was talking to Sam about it. Let's say I've got a course and I've got 10,000 students, right? And you've got a course and you've got 10,000 students, right? If we either visibly or invisibly, it doesn't really matter, become co-instructors of both courses, each of us now has 20,000 students.
Exactly.
Right? So this is my thing. Why don't I, with my, I don't know, however, I got 300 students. I mean, today, let's just have a quick look because we're live on a call. I'm just going to see how many people have joined my programs today. Just because it's fun, it's nice to do live things, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, so this isn't all of them because they don't all come through on the filter. So at 22:53, that's a few minutes ago, the most recent person joined. So that's 20, 40, 60, 80, 100, 120. So 12:11. 140, 1028, 160, 180, 200, 220, 240, 260. Okay, 260. Ahmed Javahari just joined Everyday Mind Mastery at 23:59 last night, so he doesn't count. We've still got another hour of this day. Bear in mind, it's only 11 o'clock in England.
Right.
So he was 61. So 260 people have joined my programs today. But like you, Bryan, if you wanted to, let's say you and there's 10 architects and they each do a course, why, what anyone would want to do or could do is they could have other architects do, like you and Sam are doing courses. Right, let's say you say, okay, Tom, we want you to be an instructor, co-instructor. Immediately, I promote any new courses to all my people, because it's a co-instructed course. And then immediately everyone goes from 0 to like several thousand students right away.
Right, right. And that's what makes it regenerative. One of the things that Sam and I are doing for the Fitness Mojo is create a resources list, and the resource list has all of your courses there, as introducing us to the 13 by 4, and that's something that we said even in some of the sessions. But it also is have you as the case study. We wanted to show them of someone that's actually taking this work and multiply it, because as I said, I was really struck when you said, when I was asking you and I kept prodding you for, like, okay, how did you get this set up? What did you have to do? And you said, well, Bryan, I really didn't know. I kind of put it out there, and then I did the iterations when I found out, oh yeah, I should have a proper course up here because people are interested in it. And so we want to put a case study there of you, and then all the listings of all the courses that you've done, because then it cycles back itself, because now people go to the Google Plus, then people get interested in 13 by 4, and so that's regenerative. That's what a circle of influence does. And like every mastermind group that I've been a part of, that's we specifically meet for how we can strategically help each other grow, develop, and become even more. That's greater life for all.
And that's beautiful, and it's genius, it's simple. And what's, obviously it's win-win, because that's what greater life for all is. But I think the next step change, a lot of people are still, they've seen what Udemy's done, and they've seen what a bunch of other people, Coursera and a few of these other organizations have done. And they thought, oh, we've got to get into online education. Now, I think online education is going to be massive. But as you pointed out, it's not going to be what people think it is. People at the moment still think it's, websites. They still think it's like courses in the traditional way. I don't think it is. I think the future, well, obviously I'm going to do that. I'm going to think this because this is where I'm putting all my efforts. But I think the future is not in information. I think information is relatively easy to get hold of. I think the future is going to be in getting to people's devices in a way that affects, with an E, affects the implementation of any of the information. So the framework that we're going, the platform that we're creating, I mean, really my idea for the 13 by 4 app essentially is just a platform, a Trojan horse to get into people's minds on a personal basis, because the psychology of the phone is still incredibly different from the psychology of the PC, or the computer. It's still, when I send you a message to the group through WhatsApp, it still feels really personal, doesn't it?
Yes. Oh, absolutely, absolutely. So, that's why I said it has to be multi-chain, because I think, or multi-channel, because I think the live immersions is what I love.
Yeah. You can't beat that.
I really love that. But what I had envisioned is exactly what you said, because you get to say we're designing this career mojo right now. We have a reasonable, I said that can very easily, if we do it just like Everwise, we're going out partner with organizations and say, hey, we can take your employees, your entrepreneurs that work there, help them create designer work kind of experiences that increase your productivity. That could very easily turn into a reasonable leadership program.
Right.
A reasonable leadership program could turn into other different kinds of consultancy kinds of things that are out there. That's how my thinking is, because the need for learning and development continues to evolve over time. If the collective body of knowledge is growing every year and a half, we can't depend on just one thing. It has to be the collective thing. So we're going to need to all these programs in there, and we're going to
Yeah.
have to be able to integrate at different levels of engagement. I
Yeah.
think is key.
Yeah. Well, my vision would be, at the moment when I do workshops for organizations, and I do few of them now because I'm too busy creating the bigger stuff, which is the global, the scalable stuff, but I love it. I'll go into a company and I say, okay, so what would you like to achieve in the next year or so, for example? What would be really cool if you did? Okay, would X, Y, and Z. And what would you need your people to get better at in order to make this easy to achieve for your company? Oh, well, we'd need them to be better listeners, better team workers. We'd need them to be more creative, more independent. Okay, so we then, in a workshop, we get the individual employees and the workers to pull these things out, but we're sort of guiding them towards, you know, the company's mission statement, the objectives of the company. The end of the session, they walk away with a customized 13 by 4 implementation program for their organization, and they love it. But until now, even though it's personal, even though it's exactly designed, and they say, yeah, if our people did get better at these 13 things, just through a minimum will, marginal gains focus, imagine how good they'd be in just one cycle, let alone 4 cycles, let alone in a year. Yeah, this is amazing, this is fantastic. But until now, we didn't have the actual delivery system for the continual reminders. So it depended too much on the personality of the person in-house kind of leading the reminders. And, okay, guys, it's week 3 on the wheel. This is what we're focusing on. We're focusing on being more independent, not always having to go to your manager for the solution, taking initiative, whatever it is. And with the app, you see, you could walk away from the full-day workshop, leaving them downloaded to their phone with a artificial intelligence to remind them of the things that we've all just plumbed in at as the output of the workshop that they've chosen. They've established these things. They've gone through the workshop working out why these things deserve to be in the program. They've done the sort of justification of it, and they've got this complete sort of tracking system as well. So at the end of each cycle, they can see how much progress they've made. The website backend will track everything for each company. And oh my goodness, how many organizations would kill just to have some sort of longitudinal impact from a workshop?
Yeah, that's going to be bigger than you realize, because I can tell you there's even if you think about the current education model right now, there's what I call a sea of sameness. Everyone is taught the same way, and the presumption is that everyone learns the same way. And we all know from science that's not true. Well, organizations are stuck in the same mindset, and so they have the training, and they assume that everyone is mentally digesting the training in the same way, and it's just not true. So to have the app, the follow up, where you can even see the progress, people can constantly engage, because consistency is important for mastery. And so we can start to really increase the return that these organizations are desiring. And I think that's big, because right now there's such a push for what I call mass customization in medicine. Then organizations are using it. The medical field is trying it with personalized care, all these different kinds. So they're using technologies to help them with that. And that's ongoing right now. That is the current trend that we're seeing in a lot of businesses and even in a lot of startups. And so that's why this whole idea of some people are seeing it in a very narrow perspective, and they're saying, well, if there's going to be this mass customizations, we'll put things online because everyone is utilizing online technology. But see, they're not getting it from a holistic perspective, and that's where, you know, these sometimes early adopters kind of miss out on seeing the big picture. So this could be really big.
Well, it is going to be massive. I mean, when I spoke to a woman recently, she goes, "Oh my goodness, you've just solved the biggest problem that I have, which is convincing organisations that the £16,000 they pay for the half-day workshop with my superstar has actually got some sort of longitudinal impact. And you've actually come up with a system where all we do is we turn. You see, this is without it being a workshop where people are sort of creating the content themselves and then just plumbing it in. Any speaker has got some, you know, some cool ideas who goes in and he's the big shot and he's written this book and all that sort of stuff. bingo, he rocks up there with the downloadable app of his program in a 13x4 system that you can then track a year later. You'll be able to track every single individual's performance across all of these characteristics. You'll be able to track the individual components that had the biggest global impact across all the workforce. You'll be able to relate the individual and then these collective increases and correlate that with the external results through better sales or more better recommendations and all that sort of stuff in a pure performance management sense. This will be amazing. You imagine being able to sit down every quarter for just like half an hour with your line manager and say, well, yeah, this is a record of what I've been working on over the last quarter, and this is what I've said about it, this is what I think, this is how much progress I think I've made, kind of, what do you reckon? They say, well, you know, they have a little discussion, you click, yeah, send to HR, bing, you've done. I mean,
Right.
that would revolutionize the entirety of learning and development in an organization. And you could even, this is the real genius of it, and I thought of this through schools. I go into schools, there's teachers, there's newly qualified teachers, there's teachers who've been teaching for a little while, there's teachers who are heads of department, there's senior leaders. Why are we all teaching them the same content? Why are we all getting them to work on developing the same characteristics? Well, of course, all of this stuff is great, but what you do is you give them, right, here's some principles. The app comes preloaded with a sort of a buffet table of selection of these key things. They can say in their meeting with their line manager, you know what, I think I'm going to work on these things. They bung them into there, and so everyone's got a personal record, which, I mean, that tracks everything individually, but it's kind of part of the general, these are things that would be useful for us to be working on as teachers and as leaders. And I've already written Reasonable Leadership. 2 years ago, I was doing seminars at the business school, the not Wharton Business School, the McCombs Business School in Texas, and I based on Reasonable Leadership, which was, I didn't call it Reasonable Leadership, but it was effectively the same thing. So if you and me want to do that as a program, you know, co-author Reasonable Leadership and get into organizations, because sometimes you need to go in with a bit of content, right?
Yes.
As well.
Yeah, that would be that's huge, because if you were to Google the word leadership, as I did, I think last week, there's over 80,000 texts and different kinds of concepts about leadership.
Yeah.
And I said, how can we have that much leadership and do it so poorly?
Yeah. Well, because it's not, information is not the problem. It's the daily basis of implementation of these great ideas. When you're feeling tired, when your wife's had a go at you in the morning, when you haven't had a decent cup of coffee that morning, and a situation comes up, you're not going to be able to remember that you've got to seek first to understand and then to be understood.
Yeah, exactly. I love this stuff, because I say my second half of my life is about this, really getting in touch with this human potential. And the reason I'm targeting businesses specifically, not just because I've always been an entrepreneur and in that space, but I believe business is the primary social transformation. If people are increasing their age, and it's not going to be uncommon to find a centenarian, think about how long people work. They're going into the marketplace, exchanging their time, their human energy. That's 70% or more of their life.
I think you're bang on the money. It's actually what people do for most time. So even if you just said, well, no, it's what people do for most of the organized time they spend.
Right. Yeah. And the questions that I've been asking myself after reading some of Buckminster Fuller's Synergistic is, why is work the synonymous with like being a curse?
Yeah.
It's something that you have to resign to do. Why is it not the
pinnacle of human activity?
Exactly. Yeah. It should be the place where you go and demonstrate the fullest expression of who you are.
It is for you. It is for me.
But it's the exact opposite for the majority of people, which is why 1 out of 3 are going to doctors for stress-related medication.
But we know really why. It's just because there's so many poor examples in the workplace of how to be, poor examples of middle leaders, poor examples of executives, senior executives, poor CEOs, poor HR. These people, and you know what? It's not even their fault. It's because they're running from scripts that they would never choose.
Yeah, exactly. But they're even taught this
Yeah.
in the MBA programs. So, you know, and we're spewing them out by the thousands, and they come out with, you know, the MBA, but you're not effectively leading and managing people at all. You know, you don't manage people, you steward them, but you can't manage people. You can't manage yourself well. So how are you going to manage people?
Yeah. Yeah. And
Yeah.
that's what I said on when I was doing this talk to the MBA students. I was like, you know, the number one thing if you want to be a leader, it was kind of, I think I'd called it the science of effective leadership at the time. And it's like, this is actually how to be a leader. And it was, well, what is it? Okay, it's a sausage machine. You've got to put in what you want actually other people to be. You've got to be the example of it. So if you want people to be loving their work, you've got to love it. It's not that you want to work. If you want people to have a good work-life balance, you've got to have a good work-life balance. If you want people to get along, you have to get along with people that you don't even want to. You know, even a fool can be kind and gracious to the gracious and kind. It takes
Right.
a special sort of person to actually be kind and gracious to the mean-spirited and the unkind and the evil and the difficult. You know,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
so that's
That's
like, I mean, it's completely obvious. You just got to, as Gandhi said it, be the change that you want to see in the world. But people are focusing so much on, I suppose they don't realize the importance of identity in humans. They don't realize the importance of awareness and the metaphysical creative powers that we've got as humans, because they don't really think of it themselves, and you can't give what you haven't got.
No, and that's why we need this kind of revolution because there's so much conditioning. If you think about it, when you go into corporations, and I'm sure you've heard this already, they're still using language from the Industrial
Yeah.
Revolution age, where you have soft skills, hard skills.
Yeah.
You have all this different kind of language, and so they'll neatly tuck away skills such as emotional intelligence, working from the heart, you know,
Mm.
the leadership, all those kinds of things. Those are typically the first things to go. But we'll focus on the technology. We'll focus on, you know, the development, and you need both. It can't be either or. You need both and. And so oftentimes what tends to happen is because a person lack the emotional intelligence skills, which the cornerstone is all about self-awareness, he or she can't get along with everyone else, and so they lack interpersonal skills, and they come into the office and shoot everyone in there. And I often ask investors and entrepreneurs, what is soft about that?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we call that a soft skill. I said that's probably there's nothing soft about that. So I mean, it seems like to me that would be the most important thing. And the value economics, the hierarchy, if you will, always follows people first, productivity second, policy last.
Yeah.
And that is I always put people first. The policy can't be greater than the people who must operate underneath it.
Yes.
I mean, the how you need people in their right mind for the productivity to take place. You need people to actualize their true potential for the productivity to take place. So it's always people first, productivity second, then policy. So it
And
follows intrinsic, extrinsic, systemic.
yeah, it's complete. Well, one of my favourite sayings on this is that whenever anyone ever starts talking about the policy or the procedure or the protocol for things like that, well, I say, look, rules are made for man, not man for rules.
Mm,
Right.
mm,
So the reason we have rules is because most people aren't trusted to use their own discernment. But
mm.
I can let you know that I'm not one of those people that can't use their own discernment. I can use my own discernment. I have used it, and this is what's better than what the current rule says. And it's like, well, what happens is, as soon as you get an organization which is largely full of people who aren't really doing any original metaphysical work, you need a way to get rid of absolute mediocrity. And you do that, you can legislate total mediocrity out of an organization, but you can't legislate genius into an organization.
Wow, that's good.
That's kind of the way I see it. You know, like I can understand. This is we're still really the remnants of the industrial age thinking, which is essentially X happens when we do Y. So if we do more of Y, we'll get more of X. So if people can work harder and longer hours, and we're still thinking about humans being in a cage and turning a dynamo to generate electricity, rather than saying, well, if we used our metaphysical powers and we got together and thought maybe we could create a machine which sort of generates electricity out of the wind or something like that. You know, so I think that's the sort of stuff that can only come once you've got people who fundamentally believe that it's possible to run an organization based out of greater life for all, and they fundamentally have to buy into the abundance thinking concept. Because if they don't really don't buy into abundance at the root of everything, they will not really buy into anything which still anything which involves them leaving the competitive plane.
Yes, and I've talked to several of them about that, and that's the terminology they use is the buy-in. And I say, well, the buy-in still sounds like you're selling something. The real key is to enroll. You know, when you go to a college, university, you enroll. That means you show up, you pay money, you invest. And the way, so that the ideal of really showing them true potential and the return that they'll receive, that's where they'll enroll in that. It's kind of like the same thing. We're uniquely designed and wired to experience emotion, so we tend to remember the negative over the positive, and it's because of the weight of emotions. And psychologists always say significant emotional events are always better remembered than something neutral.
Yeah.
So if we want to impact these organizations, we have to hit them emotionally, you know, bring them into the fold, because then they're going to enroll, and that's about them experiencing their pain in a very real way. But as you said, we have the solutions for that pain. We're not just here to talk the information. We're here to provide you with the solution. So if you want to rid yourself of this pain, then perhaps you'll enroll, and you'll enroll your other influencers so that you can move away from it. And that's one of the motivational things for people. You're either moving away from pain or towards the pleasure. Both are movement, but one is a lot more enjoyable than the other.
Yeah. I mean, we could talk all night, and we often, well, we will in the future when we get together and we're on the same continent, even in the same room. It can happen unexpected.
Yeah.
And I'm really looking forward to that. I'm enjoying it already, but I'm also looking forward to it. I can't wait till we get. I mean, it's already happening. There's some just amazing things happening with these communities and the groups, and the breakthroughs and the personal transformations that are happening. It just blown me away in just only a few short months. It's really incredible. But
it has been.
Yeah, I mean, when you see these people and you get people that say, well, you know, my main problem was depression, and I haven't had a depressive episode in 15 weeks, basically since this program started. You know, and other people say, well, you know, I've learned more in 3 days in WhatsApp than I did in 6 months of the counseling.
Yeah. And I feel that way. I often look, you know, I don't text as fast, so I don't, you know, comment as much, but I definitely read every day, and I get lots of inspirations from, you know, all the comments that are there. It's very, very inspirational, and that's the kind of stuff that keeps me going.
Well, you know, it's just no better evidence could you get of something that, like, the universe is taking care of its people, because that wasn't the intention. The intention of doing the whole WhatsApp thing was just a way for me to scale my teaching, so I could scale to reach loads of people with the same effort of mine, but even better, it could be asynchronous, so people could come to it in their own time rather than all have to be on the webinar at the same time, that sort of thing. And of course, not to do it through the web, because it was much more personal. And I completely missed the biggest benefit of it all, which is the community aspect and the seeing the change in others and seeing the unfolding awareness in others, and then that being reflected back into your own thinking. Because it's everyone's gonna, everyone's gonna look at me, and whatever I tell them to do, it's, you're as great as the greatest, no better than anyone else. They'll still say, yeah, it's all right, but I'm not quite like you, Tom, and it's all right for you. Same way as I did for Richard Wilkins. So yeah, Richard, I get that I should go to the source as well. I get that I should go there, and I'm as great as you and all that. But tell me your story again.
Yeah.
So a lot of people are still thinking that. They still think that. But what happens when they see the change in each other, because they really do see each other as equal? Then they think, oh shit, it's not just about Tom, who's kind of sorted it out and he's got some problems and he's got some script issues because he's human, but basically he's really got it all sorted. But when they see individuals that came into this program, like Mark Berger, there is a recording of Mark on the 6th of March. My godfathers, that guy doesn't even occupy a single molecule that's in the Mark Berger now. It's just like exactly everything about everything he says, the intonation, how he says it is so different. You wouldn't believe those people were in the same, well, we're in the same continent, let alone in the same body, just as only separated by a couple of months.
That's the power of story, and that's the other part of what I think the 13x4 app itself bring, is it allow people to continue that story of inspiration. If you ever notice when people go to, you're on the speaking circuit, and so have I. You go to speak, and people get really pumped up, but then you go back maybe a month or so, a couple of weeks after, and ask them, well, what happened?
Yeah.
So, it's the same thing when people go to the Tony Robbins. They get pumped up, they buy the video or whatever, and they put it on the shelf because of the lack of implementation. This whole revolution framework that I was talking about to you at the sessions here, one of the things that they say it integrates, or it takes its elements from, is something they call a story architecture. It's about allowing human beings to be a part of a collective story where they realize that depth of their own uniqueness, if you will. And people want to belong to that. That's a fundamental, universal need of humanity. As we want social connection, we're actually designed for it. And so when we can have these stories, and collectively build a story together, that's a powerful thing. That's how revolution starts.
And you know what's very awesome? What's awesome about basically the functionality in a future version, it won't be in the ground zero version of the app. People are going to be able to go to the back-end website and just literally export everything as a book.
Wow.
They're going to be able to export the entirety of that sort of chat record with the artificial intelligence itself and with the other communities and all the ones that they're in, and then they'll be able to produce it with the deal that we're going to set up, which would involve them producing a hardback or softback actual paper book as a record. I mean, talk about that, the unfolding story of their genius. That's powerful. In fact, that's broken the matrix. I couldn't hear you for a second.
Yeah, that's unheard of there. That's powerful.
And the technology isn't that difficult because you can export it to XML, and we'll have some back-end ninjas enabling us to do it. Once you get something in a PDF format, of course, then literally getting it exported and then produced into a printable book isn't very difficult. Create space, do that. A friend of mine, he basically has all his books delivered the next day from Amazon through Create Space, print on demand.
Yeah, wow.
So he just rocks up, he does a talk, and he says, right, anyone, he says, oh, sorry, I brought 20 books along, they've all gone off, but here you go, here's the link, you can buy it, and they're not even printed, they're not in the warehouse anywhere, they get print on demand, and you can do a deal with Amazon, with Create Space, the company, but the minimum deal you'll get is 50%. So if your books are going for like $10, you're going to get 5 actual bucks from a book which costs you nothing because you don't have any inventory, don't have to print it, and don't Amazon hold it for you and print it and deliver it and all that sort of stuff and do the transaction. So all the architects could create, their own books out of their own programs really easily. And if they go and do their own talks, and if you want the workbook for this, go and buy it. You'll be able to order that off the back end. It'll be too awesome. I mean, basically, as I said, we don't have enough time in our own lifetime to come up to implement the ideas we've already had.
Yes, yes, but it's exciting because as you said, we know the work has impact long after our departure from Earth here, and that's exciting for me. One of the questions people always ask is about this legacy issue and purpose, and what am I here for, and those kinds of things. And it doesn't have to be a destination. It's something that you can do right now. Being on purpose instead of waiting for the purpose, long term.
And what I was talking to Sam about this, I genuinely believe, absolutely fundamentally believe, that John Lennon and Buckminster Fuller and Richard Wilkins, my mentor, and Benjamin Franklin and Wallace Wattles, these people were all perfect for their time, and they did what they did. And we've uncovered this collection, this confluence of all these ideas and other great ideas. And now it's just so happened that we've got a general consciousness level of humanity where humans are primed for it, because really they haven't been, on average, they haven't been anything like as conscious as they are now on average. These world domination summits, 100 years ago the World Domination Summit had a different agenda.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
I love
the
quote by Thomas Jefferson.
Yeah, exactly. Well, on top of that, we've got the technology to reach every single human on the planet within our lifetimes.
And that's what's even more exciting, because you don't have to necessarily be physically present.
Yeah. You don't. Is he coming back? I love this. I love technology.
Awesome.
I love it that we're talking about the powers of technology just when the signal went a little bit weak on us. Okay. It's time for me to, because I do all these calls standing up after I've been standing up for sort of about an hour and a half. It's kind of okay. It's time for me to go and sit down. But tell you what, Bryan, again, talk about minimal, marginal gains and minimum will. Just get rid of. If you tell someone, in general, just get rid of your chair in your office, and you don't spend, you never spend more than a couple of hours at the computer because you don't want to. I mean, obviously, I still sit down if I'm doing thinking and mapping out stuff and sketching and stuff like that, and composing. Of course, I'll do that at a desk or in a chair with a pad. But if I'm doing emails, if I'm doing conversations, voice calls, hangouts, so I'm probably on my feet instead of sitting down with no effort whatsoever for 4 to 5 hours a day. You think of the impact of that over time. I mean, I'm fitter, stronger, healthier. Well, not actually lighter, because I've now started. I'm creating reasonable shape, and I'm alpha testing reasonable shape, and that's kind of like it'll be a companion to the fitness mojo. It'll be another way of looking at things, but it's for the people that don't really want to do too much of the exercise. Like you guys are kind of into all the, you kind of full on, which is great. And there'll be a lot of people who, well, the idea of getting rid of a chair is anathema to them. So the idea of actually going and joining a gym or doing half an hour of actual workout 3 times a week isn't going to happen. But I'm happier than I've ever been. I've got more influence than I've ever had. I'm sleeping better than I've ever had. I'm meeting better people. That's not the right way to say it, but people who are more. They always get the greatest ever. But the people that I'm meeting and that I'm running across are more aligned to the long time scale, the greater life for all principles than ever before. Talk about attracting what you think about the most.
Yeah. Is the Reasonable Shaping program something you have out now?
No, I'm doing it. It's in alpha test. So what I do is I conceive them first, and then I test them on myself. And when I'm happy with them on myself, I put them into beta. And then
okay.
Yeah. And
I
then
was
when I,
telling Sam about the one of the presenters here, and I went to his session. Is he has an interesting website. If you go to it, is nerdfitness.com.
oh, I know it. I know Nerd Fitness.
Nerdfitness.com.
Yeah.
Steve, he was there. He did a session, and he talked about his concept of nerd fitness, and he took us through some basic body weight movement because he said he started that whole thing for just like who you describe for the average person don't necessarily want to go to the gym. They're not looking for, the curls for the girls kind of syndrome of, this physically ripped body. They just want to be healthy and to be whole.
Yeah.
And this guy has over
200,000 people.
200,000,
Yeah.
200,000. So he has a whole like 8-figure business off of nerdfitness.com.
Yeah.
And he has a big I think he's calling it Nerd Fitness Boot Camp or Camp Nerd Fitness coming up in
Yeah.
September.
Camp Nerd Fitness.
Yeah, it was very interesting because I never heard of it, but I went to one of his sessions, so it was very interesting. So I can see that reasonable shaping up in the same manner.
Well, to be honest, I mean, even though I love all the content type stuff, and I think there's so much I can do, the real leverage is getting the platform in the hands of other creative geniuses, such as yourself and Sam and all the other architects and anyone in the future. Because I think I've got great ideas, and I think you've got great ideas, and I think Sam's got great ideas, and Mark and all these other people. But I'm guessing that the combined great ideas of everyone else will still probably be valuable, significantly more valuable than our great ideas. So if we can provide any architects of the future of humanity who follow the principles of Greater Life for All with the platform and the ability through building a 13x4 content into our the successive engine, the engine that successively keeps going and keeps reminding them and keeps them on track and tracks the progress and makes it fun, then that, in the hands of this guy, Nerd Fitness guy, if he wanted to do that, I totally would be up for anyone using any of their stuff, because how would that not bring greater life for all?
Exactly. Yeah. And
So
he's the kind of person, like you said, the architects, and this guy, I know he would be very, very interested in that, and so it could be very easily, something that an architect can even approach him about, strategic partnership, and from that way it can accelerate, those who may be lurking. I call it OPN. So you start by using other people's network instead of developing your own.
Yep.
So you do some collaborative kind of things. So it can be very interesting.
Definitely, and I just I thought recently, only a couple of days ago, I thought the best way to get the approach into as many hands people in the world, and therefore once they've got the platform, then they'll be browsing around and they'll discover all the other programs.
Right.
But you go to other coaches, any coach who's got like Nerd Fitness, who's got loads and loads of people, you say, hey, listen, how about this? We've done a system for you. We've basically built an app for you to stay constantly in touch with your people and motivate them and coach them and do all that sort of stuff if you want to. You can have whatever revenue you want from doing that. It's sort of up to you, as long as we've got this amount which covers our costs and builds us a reasonable return on our time and so on. Probably to someone who's already got an established market and they're doing their own stuff. Sam and I were talking about this affiliate idea. Look, if you're going to do your own stuff and you're going to deliver it and you're going to market it to your own people, then you should probably have like 75%, even though it's our app and it's our system and it's a 13x4 and we're providing the technology and we're providing the back end and all the actual costs. You should probably have not only the 50% for you being the guy that's out there doing it and talking to businesses or whatever, but if it's your own thing as well, you should probably have another half of the back end 50%. And we haven't worked out the exact numbers, but I like the idea of thinking of this kind of 4 essential components of the revenue that is generated from people being in the coaching program. 1/4 will effectively go to the figurehead, the one who's delivering it. 1/4 will effectively go to the person whose content it is. So if you're delivering your own content, you're getting 50%. Another quarter should probably go to the system that engineered the transaction. So if it's your people, then you brought them to the fold. If you're and if that can be like the affiliate component, and then there's probably 25% which will cover the ongoing actual cost of the tracking system and the back end and the paying for the data to go to the hundreds of thousands of people all the time and all that sort of stuff. But for me, that's kind of a neat way of doing it. So let's say, Brian, we've got some people, the other people, they want to use Reasonable Eating, my program. They don't want to use their own content, so they want to use my content. They don't want to deliver it themselves either. They just want to tell people about it. They could still get one of the quarters for themselves.
Yeah.
So they could still get, if it's $10 a month for people to be on my Reasonable Eating program, I still think that would be a great source of income for kind of budding architects to say, well, they can make $2 or $3 a month out of just talking about it.
Yeah.
Then you're saying, don't just, while you're waiting to think of yourself as great enough to create your own stuff, while you're waiting for you to think of yourself as great enough to actually deliver someone else's stuff, not even deliver your own stuff, but deliver someone else's stuff, just talk about someone else's stuff. Talk about any of the reasonable programs to anybody, and if they get involved and they use it and they pay on a monthly basis to be coached by the figurehead of the program or whatever, you can have a recurrent income. If you give people the opportunity to actually make money in a regenerative way so everyone wins, I think it starts to get really interesting.
Yes. And you talk about minimum will. I mean, that's a low barrier to entry right there, to get involved, and that's always anyone's. I think most people who are not necessarily, have this inherent high risk factor. That's always the barriers to start, is because people say, oh, the risk is too high in my mind. There's too many variables. I don't know. I don't know how to. I don't know what to. And the script goes haywire with these unknown variables and uncertainties. So if you give someone a low barrier to entry, doing something that you already practice and do every day, talking. Wow.
And talking about something that you believe in because you've seen it work and how did you lose weight, or how come you're so positive all the time? Well, I'm part of this community. If you want to know more about it, download the app, join any of the groups, and they're awesome. And I love the idea of there will be a free version of the app which just doesn't have any continuous motivation, doesn't have the coaching, doesn't have the community aspect, but it will still have the content. It'll still have the open source idea. But then, not necessarily all apps will be free. Some might be $1.99 and $2.99 or whatever. But the point is, the real business model should only get. I think there should only be really money made from the real value. The real value is on the implementation. So you shouldn't have a system which is set up to reward people where there isn't the real value. So if you have money in sort of upfront cost like a book does, I don't think that's the right business model, because you charge people $10 for a book and they don't actually implement any of it. Really, was it worth $10? All you did was steal some of their time.
Exactly. That's really powerful. That is really, really powerful.
Too many good ideas. It's crazy. But we are working on all of them, and it's awesome.
Yeah. That's what drives me. As long as I can see some kind of progress, I'm okay. But I'll check out if I don't see progress, because I have a database of ideas already in queue.
Yeah. Exactly. Next, So here's one. So why don't we create Reasonable Leadership, kind of the business focus course? I'll send you what I've already got for Reasonable Leadership, and what'll be really nice is you to just throw your spin on it, and then I would probably recommend that we could do the whole thing totally, totally by recording our individual components if we need to, over video ourselves, and then just doing conversations like this, and which we would animate later on or whatever. I mean, who knows what the format is going to be, but I think if you can get the it's not so much necessarily doing it for the Udemy. It's almost like, let's do it so there is a 13x4 which could go into the app, And the app
Right,
the app
right.
doesn't need to have Udemy's stringent video quality regulations. It just has to have video that looks good enough on a phone. So as long as it's lit well and it looks good, I'm not saying we want to be doing shonky video, and like the Google Hangouts video is not really quite good enough. But you know, even just someone holding an iPhone and filming you, or using a simple little tripod with an iPhone, is perfectly good enough for the quality for watching videos in an app on a phone.
Okay, and I can get organizations to sign up for, like, to beta test the
Yeah.
leadership program for Florida, because I'm going to be there for
Yeah.
probably 6 to 8 months, or maybe even longer. So maybe till February. But
Okay. What
yeah,
we'll
so
do is we'll organise to have some sessions where I come in and do some talks as well, because if we're co-hosting, and then what they have to do, we'll put on some talks for these companies, and they can film them, and then that can go to the. Because what would be really nice when you're setting it up for a company, on the back end, they would be able to access on the website, and they'd be able to, you know, jigger about with it and add some relevant content that's relevant for their company and all that sort of stuff. Um, and then you've got all the tracking and the ability to track the performance of these leaders in these different characteristics as they develop them inch by inch, day by day, week by week, marginally. Imagine, we know how well it works. Just
yeah.
imagine in a year's time, skipping forward to a year and seeing these people's faces when you go back to them, and they're just brimming with enthusiasm, grinning like Cheshire cats as to how well their company's going.
In fact, the career source that state program from Florida says, well, if I beta tested, how many people can I beta test with? Because she says she got really excited because she said, I can see this for, like, our welfare to work. I can see it with our youth programs, and then the career professionals. So she has like 3 different demographics that she's wanting to test it with. And for these kinds of organizations, they all have responsibility of metrics and how many people are successful in their programs, because they're receiving federal dollars and state dollars, and so they have to keep
Yeah.
specific tally of success. So it's very, very important for them. So I told her, I said, I need to go back and speak with the team, and
Yeah.
then we can help you implement and, get you started so that you can test it. But she's quite excited and see many uses of it.
Well, the brilliant thing is, in terms of credibility, I'm probably the leading authority on, career development in the UK, or certainly a leading authority. I don't do careers much anymore because I got into the basically careers for me and career development, and all my career design programs and getting your dream career programs, they were all personal Trojan horses to get into people's minds. And after I got into people's minds, I thought, I'm just going to go straight to people. I'm just going to go straight for mind mastery right off the bat. Forget about, telling people that I can make them more money by getting them their perfect career or make them happier. I'll just go straight for it. But I've got I've got such a wealth of stuff that has tried and tested and works incredibly well. So, we've got all these different angles, people returning to work after a long time. And of course, Angela, who I did the Udemy courses with, she still works in careers. That's her, probably 50% of her business is still in career coaching and career development.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I thought she was just a consultant. Okay.
No, she's her main business is in. I mean, she does everything from the nitty-gritty of resume reviews and improvements, right up to the much more advanced. Okay, so let's work out what you actually want and what your vision is. My stuff is a bit more esoteric, but learn how to get your dream career is the 13x4, which takes people step by step through getting basically the perfect career for them. These are already things on Udemy, so what you could do is I'll give you some coupons so you can, if you want to send in advance, these are some of the things that we would make available to your people as sort of additional support materials.
Ah, okay. Okay.
So
And
not
see
just
that?
not
Yeah.
just beta test the app or the program that they can beta test for us, but those sorts of things are phenomenal because it's the low hanging fruit is people that need work because they will do anything you tell them because
Yeah,
they need income. They need work. So, oh, what? Oh, great. They're really teachable. They're good people. Um, they need change more than anything.
exactly. And they're looking for it. They just haven't found it. They haven't found true mentors. You know,
I'll
they have a,
send you. I'll
so
send
that
you
would be
my
good.
introduction. It's about 35 pages book introduction, which explains the whole 12 steps of the Ultimate Career Success Program. When I first went on, that was the first course I planned to release on Udemy, and the Everyday Mind Mastery one was kind of, well, I just had a bunch of videos that I'd done in Austin, right? So I thought I'd just bung them up and see what happens, and then, whoa, okay. And then the Ultimate Career Success is it's just too big. It was a series of 12 hours of me doing teleseminars, and I talk about 10,000 words an hour, so it was like over 100,000 words.
Okay.
And there's a whole handbook for it as well, which was released 1 week at a time over a 12-week period. So it's absolutely perfect. It was a 13 by 4 because the first was, there's review and then 12 weeks, 12 components. And you'd love it because it's exactly everything for getting the right mindset and also taking action.
In
So
fact, I think I have one. Is it the same as the this is from I don't remember how many years ago this was, the recession proof your life?
that is part of it. That was the first. That was the introductory seminar.
Yeah, I have that one. I have recession proof your life, 13 strategies to survive and thrive no matter what happens to the economy. That was good too.
Yeah,
In
that's
fact, I had designed ultimately, subsequently, I had designed 13 by the Career Mojo for Life after that when I initially seen this. Because that
ah,
13, Career Mojo for Life was something that I delivered before in the past when I was teaching entrepreneurship in some of the schools in Florida. But they just had career professionals and executives come in that had suffered from layoffs and all the flux and change that was going on in the industry. And so they asked me if I would do a seminar
yeah.
to kind of help them re-strategize. In fact, we had called the workshops Retool and Refuel. And I did the Career Mojo for Life was my 2 day session, but it was based off of this recession proof your life that I
Well,
seen.
well, well. Isn't it
Yeah.
funny how the world? So that was the free introductory seminar, which just went over some actual strategies that you could take away right away. But then the full program was kind of like 12 times that size. This was
Wow.
Yeah, it's really bloody good. It's really. I'll send you the. You love reading, don't you? So it's still the overview. So it's the overview of the content of the 12 weeks, but rather than the whole content. It's called the Ultimate Career Success, and it's the handbook. Ultimate Career Success, the manual. This is an introduction to it, and it's about. Oh wow, it's 54 pages, and it just goes into an overview of what's going to happen on each of the components of the 13 weeks. One of which is was covered in the introduction. The introduction session was that recession-proof your career. So it was that was that was just one of the 12 weeks. All those.
Ah, okay. Okay.
Man, you will
That's
love.
good. Yeah, yeah, that'll be good.
Okay, let me send this to you then, Brian. Brian, I can't.
E.
I'm not sure I've even got your.
Brian B. Sykes at
Oh yeah,
gmail.com.
yeah. Hold on, I'll put a picture of you.
Because I remember they liked this when I seen the Recession Proof Your Life and I used the science-based life design. People
Yeah.
really love that.
So tell me about it. They love it, don't they? What's it called? Ultimate Career Success and uh, the beginning of the 13 weeks. So at the end of the end of the first week, which was the introduction, where I'd given them all these techniques, I said, and here's what we're going to be covering in the full course. And the first teleseminar was free, but then the whole series was $700, $800, something like that, for a series of seminars, teleseminars. Easy for me and scaled really well. It's just that I became then much more interested in going straight to the source and just getting people to be awesome.
Yeah,
Right.
that's awesome. I like that.
I'll send that to you. I've sent it to you, sir.
It's gonna be
Okay,
good.
I'm gonna let you go now.
Okay.
Yeah, this is great. This is
Yeah, so I didn't mean to hijack all of your time on your feet.
I wouldn't. You know, if I was choosing, I wouldn't choose to spend it any other way. This is my favorite thing in the world to do. To actually, it's not castle dreaming. It's genuinely castle building. Yeah, it's genuinely working with someone with a definite purpose to make it happen, and that's the difference. You know, all the things I talk about with Sam, and I talk about with other architects. There is a deliberate purpose to actually make them happen. There isn't just, oh, it'd be really cool if we did this, and then, because all you need to do is anything you want to make happen that's meaningful, whack it into a program, whack it into a 13x4, and it's like, comes with the, I mean, that is, I sometimes, you know, when you sometimes sort of shiver because you think, oh, I wonder what happened if I hadn't met this person or discovered them.
Yes, yes.
I get that with this. I wonder, you imagine if I hadn't just discovered that book all those years ago, you know. And then he said, well, imagine if I hadn't sort of it wasn't reminded to me at the time when I was running my sales team, and you know, imagine, you know, and you think, wow, I could have probably gone through life being pretty amazing, but just wouldn't have had the reach, wouldn't have had
Right. Exactly. Yeah, I feel the same way. That's how I felt when Sam and I put the course together. I said, you know, one of my true fears, if you will, someone had asked me that question before, is dying with regret.
Yeah.
And I said, you know, I wonder what happened if I don't do this course, because, you know, there's so much of me want to be on the bigger stage and in many stages. So I said this course could be something that could lead to it. So once again, even if no one purchased the course, it's a win because I did it, and I stuck to my guns to get it done. But it's, you know, it's quite a meaty course, and so I think people will get it. But I'm always thinking of things that, you know, subsequently could come off of that course or as a result of that course, and you know, they had a reasonable fitness, they had all the kinds of things already mapped out, ready to go from that. So.
Of course. And this is the beautiful thing about it. You know, I mean, it is the next day, so we now see what that is up to. You know, since 2253, the last one, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 new people have joined. So that's like 270 something people a day coming into the top end of the funnel, available for everybody.
Wow.
That's a lot of new people on a daily basis, and that will only, I mean, only a few months ago I was on average of 120, 130.
Wow.
So it's gone up significantly in the last few months. So, and that Udemy just secured 32 million of Series C funding this summer.
Yeah, I seen that. Yeah, and that's probably why they were doing all those promotions, because they even sent out another promotion to get a course up, and they'll promote it on their Facebook or one of their other platforms. They said they'll promote it for you.
Yeah, I mean, you know what? I don't see Udemy as the big source of revenue. It's great. It works really well, you know, and I don't promote my paid courses on it really at all, because I'm more interested in playing the long game. The long game is I want to be thought of as someone who's just giving obscene value to people, and then you get, if you do that, you get raving fans, people who just can't stop talking about your stuff, and then you get reach that way. And I think that the long game, we want people to use our ideas to improve their lives, and in doing so bring greater life for all. And a hazard of that is that we're going to make money, But again, like Buckminster Fuller, if we set out to make money, we'll probably short circuit the system, and the very thing all about permanence will be, it's like, okay, is this coming from a money perspective or from a sense perspective? And it's not sensible to do things in a degenerative way. You've got to set it up so that you will benefit, because otherwise it's not greater life to you. So how can it be greater life to all if it's less to you? But so it's not about being a martyr, but it's about, okay, how can we bring the most life to all in the shortest possible time? For me, it's focused on mainly making my stuff available so people get a sense of the possibility of marginal gains, one thing at a time, using their discernment and just having a reasonable plan. And as I said, we closed this call about half an hour ago. So anyway, Bryan, it's amazing talking to you. Just it's a real inspiration to me, and just still chuckling about the little black hole. So funny. So Sam sent me, first of all, an audio recording that you and him had done, and I thought, oh, that's they're talking about something quite specific, quite detailed. I must have missed this hangout. I don't remember seeing this one. I thought, yeah, okay, right, but it's quite esoteric. So, and then I saw a picture. I said, oh my God, that looks just what? And then no explanation, nothing, no explanation. That was like 2 days ago, and then sent me the link, or did the hangout yesterday or whatever it was, and it's just like, you buggers, that's so smart, they're so cool.
And Michelle kept asking him, when are you going to tell Tom that you've seen Bryan in person? And Sal kept like, oh, well, I could think we're going to do it when we actually release the course, and then, we're on the hangout. And he said, oh yeah, so Bryan, you're in Panama. And I said, not exactly, but if I tell you, I have to kill you.
Oh.
Yeah. Exactly.
So
it's he was actually texting me then, because he says, smart. You didn't necessarily tell a lie, but you just you handle it nicely.
It so enhances your reputation as the international man of mystery as that. Great, that's so much fun. Yeah. This is great. This is such brilliant fun, though, isn't it? Isn't this exciting?
It is. I'm really looking to the full manifestation of bringing these courses to light, because I'm committed to that cause of human potential. So.
Yeah, it's just too good. I'm just gonna have to go and have a beer to wind down or something like that. Right, funny. You keep doing what you're doing. So the next action, I've sent you the careers, and so we've really got two main things. One is the getting a program up and running for careers, or lots of different programs, and the other is the reasonable leadership.
Yes.
So I need to send you what I've done already on reasonable leadership. You'll love it, because I've got 4 domains, and 2 of them are thinking and 2 of them are acting. So it's like kind of a half circle of acting and thinking. And one is how to think about self, and then the other is how to think about others, and then how to act self, how to act as others, with others. So you've got that whole, you've got to have the internal, the intrinsic, and you've got to have the extrinsic. You've got to have the begin with the end in mind sort of approach, and having your own identity, and then you've got to have the interaction with other people. And I think you'll really like it. And anyway, it's just one way of doing it, right? It's just Mercedes make cars, so do BMW.
Right.
There's loads of different ways of talking about leadership. 80,000 books on leadership, and probably not one single app-based or app-related drip-fed implementation program for leadership.
Exactly. That's what's missing. That is what's missing. Brendan Burchard has High Performance Academy, and he actually got people certified in that for coaching.
Yeah.
But he doesn't have an app for it.
Well, the other
podcasts
thing, the other thing as well, and this is the difference, we are being the example as well as telling people what to do. because we've got reasonable fitness, we've got the Mojo, Fitness Mojo, we've got reasonable eating, we've got, you know, the reasonable wealth program, we've got this stuff. We've got stuff that you can use, actually content as well, to improve specific aspects of your life. We're not just making our money out of telling people, well, if you do these things in your business, you will be awesome. No, here's an actual business. You know, or
Right.
here's something. So, and I think that's that's why I like not being. I mean, Brendan Burchard, I think he's actually. I don't know much about him, but I like the way he's always telling people how they can be more influential and they can do more and all that sort of stuff. But essentially, it's all about telling people how they can do what he's doing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Rather
Exactly.
than actually telling them some content which is going to impact, you know, how to learn a language or how to be a better pianist or how to lose weight or how to do all those things. So I think we've got that genuine value as well. And if what you want to do is package up your own content in a way that is effective for people, we've got the system for that as well.
Yeah, exactly. This is going to be fun.
Yes, I'm excited already. Okay, buddy. And the other thing that's really good is all these other people are hierarchical by their very nature of their business model.
Yeah, that's why you know, they have to one up the next thing.
Yeah. How can it really last longer than the pyramids if it's dependent on themselves?
Yeah. Some of those guys, and some of them are here because, you know, although it's called World Domination Summit and, you know, you're making impact, you will find people who only come for the world domination part. They kind of left out the part of influence. Yeah. And so you'll find that I was speaking to one person, and he was telling me he has 12 different niches that he's in and how he's dominating all these different kinds of things. But I was asking him about his impact and influence, and he goes into, you know, the nominal metrics of return on investment. I said, oh, okay, I know where this conversation is going. Okay, let me leave that one alone.
Yeah. How is this bringing greater life to all?
Yeah. So, you know, I live part-time in Costa Rica, and I go here and I show people a picture of my success, and I said, oh, okay, that's fantastic.
That's good. Anyway,
okay.
We don't need to worry or feel sorry or even want other people to be different. They're a perfect fit for the average thinking of humanity at the moment. And you know what? They're perfect in the same way as, you know, I love Wattles. Is, you know, the dinosaurs were perfect for the Jurassic.
Yeah.
You know, good luck. And we're not even better than them just because we think we've figured it out, because we are into making more life to all. We just happen to have been lucky enough to have been shown a way that we think will give us the best feelings, which is through helping the most people and doing it in a way which utilizes our powers and ignites the metaphysical powers of everybody in the most effective way. So that's what I love. I love the fact that, you know, we're no better or worse than anybody. And we don't have to want anybody to be different, because on the creative plane, there's enough room for everybody. Well, there isn't anybody else on the creative plane.
Exactly.
Well, very few people. There's you know, you'll have bumped into a few of them this last week, I'm sure.
Yes, very few though.
All right, I'm gonna go.
All right. Well, you be well.
Cheers, Brian. Take care, mate. Love it.
Okay.
Right. Bye.
Bye.